Good evening. My name is Garrett Lawrence, and this is People Watching. We have officially named the show People Watching with Garrett J. Lawrence. I'm very excited about that. And to kind of get things started, we named the show People Watching because it's not really like I'm people watching. It's more of there are people watching. It's more of a message to politicians, the government, and political talking heads, and as well as other people around the world, that we are watching the government and them not watching us. We are encouraged to go and be bold, be strong, and be empowered by the people that have come before us. And we're doing a little bit of a different format today. Because why not? I wanted to try something different, try something a little bit more intimate, a little bit more cozy, see how it feels, see how it looks, see how it sounds. Sorry, excuse me, I'm yawning. To kind of get things rolling, I want to take a moment to kind of talk a little bit more about where the future of this show is going to be. I don't think we're going to do any sort of Q&A formatting when we have guests. I think this is going to be more of a, talk and hangout between me and a guest I have on. I think it's going to be just, talking and hanging out. People I find interesting, people I want to talk to. Excuse me. People I find interesting, people I want to talk to. What else? People that I share interests with, and people that I feel like I want to help platform. I have some friends that are working on a documentary, another friend that also has a podcast. There's a videographer friend of mine, a photographer friend of mine, an old veteran friend of mine, and I'm all kind of lining them up to eventually be on the show. And I think it'd be really interesting conversations and just a little bit of fun we get to have. So this might end up being a little bit of a shorter episode because I would like to kind of touch on some things and recap on the last couple of weeks and really talk about where I'm at and where I'm going, where we're at and where we're going. So to kind of, talk about where I want to go, on how to get things rolling, we'll start with a claim. And that claim is that there is no longer a left and a right. There is a confined, elitist, managerial party or hub where if you don't conform to their ideas, which is a very narrow parameter, you are kind of disbanded or excommunicated. And then you're either found in the middle of the road or you're found over on the right, which now represents a hub for time-tested, good, moral, ethical ideas. And that's why we find liberals, we find libertarians, we find conservatives, we find nationalists, we find even just people who identify with, let's say, the Second Amendment, but they're a liberal, or they're pro-life, but they're also more liberal. Or they're not Christian. You will find those people over there. And so what's happened is that the diversity of the ideas on the right has increased and the diversity of ideas on the left has decreased. Some would maybe disagree with me and say that, well, I have plenty of diverse ideas and I think I'm a leftist, and that would be great. That's fantastic. But you're not a leftist anymore. You can have some semi-liberal ideas, but the aisles are not split between left and right anymore. I think we need to start beginning to understand that. There are lots of divisions, even currently on the right. You have people, arguing at the same time. Notifications went off. We have people arguing between each other, and there's a lot of infighting. I think one of the best examples of that is like Romney and Trump during the election of 2016 and their arguments that they had on the debate stage. I think we tend to view the right as just conservatism, but in reality, the right is a coalition of ideas, not the Trump coalition or the MAGA coalition or whatever. You can argue that maybe Trump kicked that off, and I might agree with you. But instead, it's just this it's this hub of ideas and of collection of people, like I said, that are conservatives, liberals, libertarians, classical liberals, populists, nationalists, moderates, and then again, single issue voters like pro-life or Second Amendment. Because of this, they tend to have higher diversity in ideas. And again, that's where I would begin to argue, is there really any right at all? Or is it simply just this home for good ideas? I think a lot of people want to emphasize sanctity and loyalty, while others emphasize liberty and fairness. And that happens within the right. The right has become less monolithic than you think. There's actually a lot of this podcast that I'm cutting out. There are some things I want to talk about, but I want to further educate myself on them, and so we're going to touch on them at the end. But continue moving in this direction. Many of what's considered the middle right is just classically liberal rather than classically conservative. I think furthermore, if the left has become less diverse, it's become more tribal and censors and removes free-thinking characters and ideas. And I think one is safe to assume, if you've been disbanded by the left, I think we all know where you went. Now, that does not mean that the right is not censoring or canceling or trying to shut out anybody else. They're doing that right now as we speak, actually, for a lot of people. And I think liberals, some of these liberals might not appear conservative because traditionally some conservatives don't appear conservative because their ideas might be traditionally liberal or classically liberal. And I think we're yet to adapt to this change. I think we see a lot of talking heads and we think, oh, well, they're a liberal, but they might agree with you on a lot of things, actually, because they're just classically liberal. Furthermore, I think the left often frames itself as this hub of diversity, when in practice it's really just demographically diverse, culturally diverse, and ideologically. But even at that, it's one culture, one demographic, and one ideology. The right, by contrast, can be more ideologically diverse, ranging from libertarian economics to traditional morality. And that's where I want to go. And we're going to pull up this great article where there's a great spectrum on what the diversity of ideas looks like between the left and the right. If it'll let me open up this link. And the article that I'm going to cite here is called Attitude Networks as Intergroup Realities, using network modeling to research attitude identity relationships in polarized political contexts. And this is by Adrian Loiters and Michael Quayle. This is written on published on July 11, 2023. And there's going to be this great spectrum, this great little graph they made, where you're going to find a spectrum of the left and the right. And you look at the shared ideas, and I hope I'm not interpreting this wrong, but when you go to the left, it's more condensed and more of a smaller range, or a smaller bubble of ideas. And as you go more right, it kind of expands and creates this large kind of spider web of interconnecting ideas. And again, I think that's where we see this, and it becomes more of a coalition, is because, again, it's this party of long time tested ideas, and that's where people tend to migrate. You can even say there might be a biblical reason for that. You might say that, as a believer, I believe that biblical ethics and moral ethics are the utmost correct. I think they reflect our nature. I think when you begin to have a conversation with somebody about where they get their morals, you and that person are going to continue to ask why or how that person came to find those that worldview, and eventually you're going to get to a point where they can't explain it. Now, obviously, there are going to be people who you have your outliers, people who individually deny those morals or adopt different ones or have culturally adopted different morals. But I think most of us can agree that killing is bad. I think most of us can agree that stealing is bad. I think most of us can agree that lying is bad. But why? And you can say, oh, well, it hurts this person, but why does it hurt them? And you continue to ask this question. We both have to get to a point where we both agree that they somehow came from, nowhere. These ideas, these morals, they were somehow given to us by a lawmaker from above. And there's a more theological way of explaining this and philosophical way of explaining this. And I'm forgetting the name of what the conversation is. But because of that, these time-tested ideas often reflect what is morally, biblically, and statistically correct. Because again, they're time-tested. And I think because of that, because the Conservative Party used to be more Christian, I think Christians and believing conservatives and right-wingers are more open to receiving these other ideas because they, I think, maybe minus like 20 or 30% of whatever the idea may be, because they're not going to ever agree 100%. There's no such thing. They invite these ideas over because they reflect something that they also believe in. So I think within the right, you would find, as kind of an example of the diversity over there, within the right, you'd find libertarians who oppose government intervention entirely, while also finding Christian conservatives who advocate for moral legislation. Think about putting the 10 Commandments in schools, like forcing schools to do that. And then you would also find moderates who borrow from both sides. These groups will clash often within the right, but still exist under that same umbrella. Again, we think of the debates between Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump. I think, again, let's see, I already talked about the whole morals thing, but it's become this home for time-tested ideas. Now, let's talk about the left a little bit. But first, a sip of my tea. It's really good tea. It's actually really good tea. Yeah, it's a tea my girlfriend got for me. I'm forgetting the name. It's like lavender chamomile. It's good. It's a good sip. Lubricate my throat. Pause. Many conservative values, blah, 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 blah. I'm getting a little bit tired here. Anyway, right, the left. The left is no longer the left. That's another little statement I'm going to have there. So you have our definitions, right? You have the classical left between the 18th and 19th century. They were very rooted in Enlightenment liberalism, human rights, equality, before the law, free speech, secularism, and later labor lights. Later on, labor rights is what I'm trying to say. And then you have the 20th century where they were focused on economic justice, think of social democracy, labor movements, welfare states, and then opposition to unchecked capitalism, solidarity with the working class. Now, if I didn't tell you that was the left, wouldn't that sound like the right today? Solidarity with the working class, economic justice, labor movements, free speech, like equality before the law, human rights. Well, I know some of it may still sound liberal, but that is what we find on the right a lot today. Furthermore, the left instead has become a coalition of class and economics, Much of today's left is centered on identity politics, such as race, gender, sexuality, and environmentalism, whether you want to deny that or not. It was once anti-establishment and has now become very pro-establishment. Think of how it involved itself in universities and larger corporations. Think of how COVID went and how it was a lot of liberal organizations and more woke-leaning organizations profited very largely during COVID-19 and during lockdowns and stuff. You had the Biden administration, right, who were censoring lots of speech during 2020 to 2024. There was a lot of faith in centralized expertise, regulation, and global institutions, less in the working class and the labor class. There was a lot of, it was like if you weren't this college-educated individual, not smart, college-educated, if you weren't that, then you were discredited. It was this appeal to authority, rather than, standing for the working class like you used to. Now, some parts of the left now suppress dissent, right? Whereas they were more free speech leaning, right? Now, I'm not saying the right isn't doing this. The right is doing it this very moment as I record this. They are suppressing dissent. They always are. And I think that's where you guys need to be very wary and realize that it's bigger than right than left, and that's also kind of the bigger message here, is that there is no right and left anymore, because it's not about that. It's a much bigger problem than that. And they suppress, dissent in the name of inclusivity or safety and diverging from its classical liberal free speech roots. And I think that's really interesting that they do that, because it's supposed to be this, culture of love and stuff, but they actually don't know what love is, because real love is telling your buddy when they're wrong. It's having a conversation with your friend to be like, hey, what you're doing is wrong, and here is why, and I'm telling you this because I love you. But the left would censor that because it's not inclusive and it can hurt the person's feelings. Love is kind, not nice. Anyway, it's become managerial class progressivism, meaning it's serving more urban, educated, and professional interests and the elite class. Now, again, the left and the right are both doing this right now, and you might not like me for saying that. And again, we've heard this time and time again. I agree with it. It is the ruling elite versus ordinary people. Now, when you group it that way, when you group it as the ruling elite versus ordinary people, you essentially take that ruling elite and the kind of corruption on the right and the corruption on the left, and you kind of put them in a little bubble together. And that's how it should be. We should view the ruling elite as both people on the left and the right. They're all in cahoots. They're all kissing butt when they go behind the curtain. Anyway. Now, after, just slandering the left for 18 minutes and 55 seconds, 56 seconds, 57 seconds, we're going to talk about the right and how they have adopted the left's playbook. And before we get into this, I want you to think long and hard about who you trust. Who do you listen to? Who do you go to for consumption of information? Who do you follow on Instagram? Are they right-leaning? Are they left-leaning? Or are they all pushing polarizing ideas? And are they all pushing, how do I say this? A contradictory view on, let's say, free speech, okay? The right, for a very long time, has made a promise of protecting free speech. But lately, they have done quite the opposite, and instead have adopted the left's playbook in censorship and cancellation. And I think they've weaponized this idea of defending you. They have taken this idea of defending you and let's say like defending Charlie Kirk, let's think Jimmy Kimmel. They took him off air because of something he said. Now, we actually know that that's not the truth, and we know they took him off air because of some money reasons, but let's think about how that blew up in the right's face. The right was celebrating the removal of Jimmy Kimmel from air and saying that it was getting even. That's idiotic. It's stupid. It's embarrassing. You are embarrassing the people you represent by behaving that way, okay? We are not the left. We are not going to cancel and silence people just because we disagree with them. If you want to promote a public square of free speech, I almost said free peach. Free peaches. I want a peach. I think a peach would taste really good right now. I'm gonna take a sip of this. Anyway, if you're going to promise this idea of a public square that is full of free speech, then you need to stand on that. You say something, you commit to it. You can't simply go and cancel or try to berate or silence somebody just because they disagree with you, and then your excuse be and your justification be because they did it to me first. I don't care who did it first. You're still doing it back, and you're contradicting your promise. You are contradicting your promise, and then you're weaponizing this promise that you made to us. You say you're defending us by getting rid of these people, right? How long until you do that to the people you say you're defending, right? I agree that some things need to go checked, right? Harmful things. But if the power that be is determining what is harmful and what is not, and it's contrary to what they stand for, I think we have a problem. We saw this with the left. The left is silencing people on the right, during 2020 and 2024, and even before then. And now the right is censoring people on the left, and even presently people on the right. And I think when you do that, you risk betraying your principles of limited government, and that's where we have a problem. And I think we have a lot of some very contradictory things here, right? The left was accused of government and corporate collusion, and we know these things were true with Twitter. I mean, think about the Twitter files with Facebook, and so on in Meta. Facebook now Meta. Conservatives sometimes embrace using this government power against companies that don't align with them politically. Does that sound familiar? Think of the threats of regulation, yanking contracts, targeting woke corporations. Think of the FCC and what they did with Kimmel. We need to also think, where do we see this as necessary? And I think to not get super off track here, I think there are very harmful things that get pushed by large corporations that have a lot of cultural influence. Let's talk about social media for a second. We have millions of children on social media, and I think as they've begun to grow up, I think about the generation like 2 and 3 years below me. They are completely different human beings from my generation, completely different. That's because they are simply having a year or 2 or 3 extra exposure to social media. And it is radically changing how they think, approach confrontation, issues, political conversations. It changes everything. It's also problematic when you have young people at such a malleable age, and you shove a screen in front of them, and you can now control the way they think because of how malleable they are. So you get corporations like BlackRock and Disney and so on and so forth, who have such large sway in the culture that sometimes they can push ideologies that are harmful. And I think that should go checked. I don't think it should go unchecked. I think it should go checked. I think we should keep keep an eye on certain things like that. And I think we should get our kids off social media. I think we should get our kids off social media, okay? Here's why. Depression is up. Anxiety is up. Girls have a harder time looking in the mirror than ever before. They feel judged. There is this performativism that is going around right now where you need to treat social media as a curation of the best parts of your life and the best parts of your week. And it's fake and it's fraudulent and it causes depression, anxiety, and comparison. And people lose sight, and children lose sight of what actually matters. I encourage you this. If you're under 16, don't get social media. If you're 16 and mature, go ahead, be smart. In reality, I don't think anybody under the age of 18 should have social media. We gotta charge this. 1 second. Okay, we're back. Anyway, I don't think children under the age of 18 should have social media. I don't think their brains are nearly enough developed. I was exposed to social media pretty young. And, honestly, I'm glad I was, because it exposed me to a lot of things, and it honestly helped develop me into the person who I am today. It's very risky. I think the negative risks outweigh the benefits by a very large margin. I don't think it's a safe place for children. I do think it can be used for good. Think of this, for instance. I'm able to use social media to converse with people and engage with people in a way that advances both our opinions, our faith, what we think of things, our worldview. Not every kid is using it that way. I believe that's the right way to use things, and unfortunately, that's not how it's going to get used, right? I treat social media very differently than a lot of people. You can say I might curate a lot of things on my Instagram, and that's true. I'm not going to tell you about the arguments I have with my close friends, or the arguments I have with my family, or the times I'm feeling really down and out, and I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to work, I'm sad, I'm depressed. I'm not going to share that all the time. But what I can share is what I believe in. And that is very important, because you're given this ability, and honestly, I think it is a humongous privilege for us to be able to do this as people, is we're able to share what we believe in and engage with people in either intellectual conversations or full-blown idiotic arguments. And I think either way, you're either going to get really enraged by it, and you're gonna create an unhealthy habit about that with it, and you might have an unhealthy view of people. But what's the difference between that and going out in the public square and constantly arguing with people and not adapting what you're thinking and becoming a rage-baiting narcissist? What's the difference between that and doing it on social media? I think it gives us this outlet to hear a lot of different voices and get a lot of different criticism, and also a lot of different enforcement and encouragement to further advance what you believe in. I think I've only benefited from social media in that way. It's made me smarter. It's given me the ability to converse with people, across states, across cities, across county lines, and it's given me this opportunity to further advance what I believe in times where I might not be able to go into the public square and talk to somebody in public or argue with somebody in public. As much as I'd like to set up a table and go do that, I just don't have the time. So it is it's a blessing, is the best way to put it. It's a blessing. And I think a lot of us should start to choose to look at it that way. Otherwise, children should not be on social media. They are at a very malleable and influential stage when a lot of people are getting onto social media. And I think it's been very detrimentally harmful to a lot of our young people. And it's something we need to examine very closely and really look hardly and critically at. So, anyway. But yeah, that's just what I think of social media. But, yeah. It's kind of lot of what I want to talk about. We're only 30 minutes into this. These episodes are going to get longer, and they are going to get more in depth. And I honestly want to talk about a lot of things. There are some things, a whole, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of information I want to talk about the world stage right now. I don't think I'm going to talk about it because I don't think I'm fully educated on it just yet. I want to continue to reinforce what I believe in and continue to educate myself on it so that I can have a really good intellectual conversation on this. And, but yeah, there's a lot going on in the world. And I think a lot of us need to further reflect on the information you're being fed. And I don't want to say to question everything, but I would say to not trust your government. And I would say to not trust some of the people in power. You know, because it's not every day that you find out that J.D. Vance was funded by Peter Thiel and sent to law school that way, and that he's changed his name 3 times, and for some reason his wife doesn't go to church with him, even though he proclaims himself as a church-going Christian. And it also turns out that he, when he was in the Marine Corps, he wasn't some decorated veteran or anything, but some Marine Corps journalist. He never actually fought. And I think it's really bizarre that he identifies with Americans so easily. And he's kind of our guy, right? He's become our guy, and he's literally me and stuff, when I think he's quite literally a plant from the deep state and the elites to subvert power even more than that has already happened, and distract all of you from what's actually going on. And you've been fooled by it. You've been fooled yet again. I was fooled. I thought he was a great guy. Seemed legit, and then I looked into who he actually was and not who I was being told he was. And especially after the death of Charlie Kirk and everything going on with that and the shooter, and now we know that this guy, Tyler Robinson, is a complete plant, and he did not shoot Charlie from that balcony. Charlie was absolutely shot from behind. We have multiple videos now that just show that this was in fact a exit wound on his neck. There's even clips of us seeing a bullet go directly down in front of him. And I think a lot of you should question the authorities on these issues, including world affairs, foreign affairs. I think all of you should take everything with a grain of salt. I think you should question the people in power, because who was it? Was it Reagan who said that the worst 8 or 9 words you can ever hear is "I'm from the government and I'm here to help"? It's true. It really is. I encourage you to question the authorities, and I encourage you to not mull these things over. Charlie Kirk is gone, and I caught myself this week starting to mull things over and kind of move on from the situation, but we should not. You cannot let it down. You cannot live it down. You cannot forget it. You need that imprinted in your mind, because that was you. When Charlie Kirk was shot, that was you. That was you. That was you when you were proclaiming the gospel, when you were proclaiming what you believe in, and somebody targeted you, and somebody had you murdered. That was you. He was one of us. He was an intermediate between us and the government, and that should frighten you. But it also should encourage you, because it's not like a vacuum has been created. Instead, the stage has been lengthened, okay, for all of us to come up, get loud, get noisy, be brave, be bold. And Charlie Kirk went out there, and he probably had no idea that he died. He was out there proclaiming what he believed in, and then he just met Jesus. That's how all of us should approach our politics, our everyday beliefs. That's how we should approach it. You go out bravely, boldly, unafraid. Because one way or another, you're going to meet Jesus one day. Whether it's on a stage or on your deathbed, it's going to happen. Don't be weary. Don't be afraid. Work hard. Work relentlessly. Be loud. Again, don't mull it over. Wake up the next morning, change your life. Wake up the next morning, bring it up. Talk about it. It's what you're called to do. You have an obligation to do that. That's what Charlie would have wanted. That's what Voddie Baucham would have wanted. It's what John, what's his name? MacArthur. John MacArthur? Forgetting his name. I should probably know his name. It's what all of these guys would have wanted. Wake up, America. And, yeah. Furthermore, dear government, people are watching. We are watching. The people are watching. And we are going to observe you very closely. Because in the next few weeks, months, and years, the America you see now, you won't recognize. It'll be different. A lot of people are going to wake up. Christians are going to wake up. Believers are going to wake up. And we're going to get loud. We're going to get noisy. We're going to get brave. We're going to get bold. So I tell you this, be careful. Because there are people watching. Good night.